Hello there everyone and welcome back. It's time to mix up one final time with the Tyranid fleet before I decide to move on to something else. Since after all this is what, possibly the fifth video I'm doing with Tyranids, so we have been committing to them for a while. Although, in all seriousness, I was kind of hoping for the rank ladder reset to happen, so at least then I can kind of fixate and focus on one of these fleets to attempt my legendary ranking. And that has yet to happen, so we'll see if that's in the future or not. Not really much else to say on that regard, so I'm going to have to start thinking on what faction I want to jump into next. Can't really comment anymore since I haven't really put a lot of thought into it, but we are going to finally jump into the Pyro-Acid fleet. And hell, I think I only did one actual YouTube video of Pyro-Acid, and that was after they made like a fix or a tweak to the Pyro-Acid trait, since it was supposed to always be able to do fire effects every time it got a critical hit. And yet, whatever the tweak was, it made Pyro-Acid the most predominant type of Tyranid fleet to go up against. And hell, did it ever get nerfed hard. The accuracy was brought down to what orcs are currently with its 75-50-25, as opposed to the 80-60-40 of what you're used to with Imperial Navy and Tau. Not only that, they are directly impacted by the critical hit of the tracking senses and lock-on nerf, as well as their predator instinct being significantly nerfed down as well. This used to be 50%. So Tyranids are not quite what they once were, at least the Pyro-Acid type of fleet. And hell, I actually wanted to play around with Bioplasma some, but apparently they were indirectly nerfed as well, since I had to sacrifice, what, 2 drones to even be able to utilize that fleet? Which probably hurts its firepower a lot, since really the only type of effective Bioplasma ships are the Hive ships themselves, and the drones, which have a surprising amount of damage to them, although they're just ridiculously slow is the downside. So we're going to play with this and see firsthand how effective it is. I imagine it's going to be a lot more slow and steady, since we're not going to have like immediate swelling of fire assaults once we bring down their shields, due to what we've already talked about, but the fire assaults will do an absurd amount of morale damage, so much so, I am kind of tempted to use the Psychic Scream ability, but I think the Spore Field's kind of important for just defensive purposes really, and of course slowing down my opponents if they try and run away from me. There is still a lot of value to this. It should be underestimated, although I can definitely see reason to use Psychic Scream. It is in some ways a more powerful type of Kulex's assassin, if utilized properly. Alright, Chaos. This in series should be pretty good for me, since Chaos don't really have the best type of burst damage, outside of their bombers, which is going to go into the one thing I am worried about, which is how fragile my Krakens can be. Never mind the fact that if they don't have bombers, they have a ridiculous amount of lances, and those are also really good at dealing with my Krakens. But at the same time, I kind of want my Krakens to, if I'm forced into an engagement, to try and get on top of them anyway, for the additional spore fields that they could prompt. So, it's hard to say how this will play out. Hell, even my drones are incredibly fragile, potentially, but they're going to be hanging back behind everything else, so I don't think I'm that worried about them. I'm just going to have to be smart with how I utilize my, oh, we're dealing with latency too, that's another factor. And how do I want to do this? Drones are going there without a doubt. I'm just wondering where I put my capital ships, so that way they're not in the most obvious spot, but they don't get isolated just by random luck as well. So spraying them out is pretty helpful, since if my opponent does use scare pulses and just reveals the Krakens, then we're okay, but I'm a little worried about this match just because of the latency we're witnessing. And it remains to be seen, are we dealing with slaughters? I'm just not paying attention to the speed that they're going to really know. 2, 3. Well, it's hard to tell because of the boosters as well. So, we'll just take our time. I am curious if we got audible rushes. which is all, of course, with another factor with the audible rushes. Even if they are silent on my end, I am still a little paranoid that maybe my opponent can hear them if I'm careful. If I'm not careful. And that beacon's going straight through the middle of my fleet. Which is okay for now. Although, I do have a lot of freedom to just grab these objectives at the same time, so I don't need to rush. I got the better positioning. I just dislike how possibly revealed I'm going to be here. Depending on where these beacons go. Because it's going all the way. Hopefully I'll be able to dodge it. Hell, I might as well use my adrenal glands to help force me dodging this. Nope, I'm good here. My Kraken might get spotted briefly. But at least these ships are fine. Alright, nothing was revealed for now.
The enemy has seized a strategic area.
And we'll have these objectives shortly. So now, I think we start getting ready to put a little bit of pressure on them. And at least reveal what they are. Huh, that's odd. That is odd to see the rally. Probably a misclick, to be fair, but still a question if these are slaughters or not. 1, 2, 3. These look like Grand Cruisers if I were serious. So we're dealing with a possibly all Grand Cruiser fleet. And I almost flew out of the objective, which is a bit of a pain too. I want to try and grab that before their capital ships get to me. And I think I'm going to activate tracking senses at the last possible second, so maybe I'm not giving out a tell that where my flagships are. Yep, they are Grand Cruisers. And they're all hybrid lance type of ships. So this, at the very least, will serve as a bit of a distraction. I don't realistically expect a lot out of them.
Seized a strategic area.
But latency is going to be a pain. And it did get a response out of them. If only a brief one. Since if I do commit to a fight, I'm probably in a lot of trouble here. Okay, and the fact the Kraken's burnt that beacon is amazing value for me. Maybe not as amazing as it could be, but at least it gives me so much more freedom for the rest of my fleet. So I'm happy about that exchange. Now, I'm worried about, again, this direct commitment that we're having here in a moment. Alright. I can at least hide that my opponent burnt all their combustion gauge, and so long as they don't see me, that's not a huge issue. Probably a mistake, but I do have what I need to get back. Well, I say that, but... And I do have Foil Lurker, that's going to help a ton as well. I just gotta get my shields recharged, and sadly I did ram myself. And also, where... I have no debris to hide myself in. My spore field's a little bit not helpful right now. Rally is being burnt. Your shields are going to recharge, and hell, I'm kind of hoping these ships to take the hits for me. And have these guys kind of help out in the exchange. Because once my shields are back up, I'm in a lot better condition. Now, board this. I was hoping not to ram, dang it. Which is always a pain in the ass. Because now it's going to cause me a bit of problems here, because now my cruiser is just going to die an embarrassing little death.
Accumulated 25% of strategic points. You have seized a strategic area.
Now, don't lag out on me. Dang it, the shields are going to go down again, which... not too terrible, but... getting that engagement did not do me a lot of good, I suppose. And latency doesn't help me a whole lot either, truth be told. Now... probably... well, the crew's almost gone there. These Krakens are not going to do much, and drones aren't doing a whole lot either. And the burn retros is a pain in the ass too. Because of delay, I think I'm hitting the burn retros multiple times, and it's reactivating the burn retros before the lag kicks in. Never mind, this turning speed is kind of a factor too. But yeah, we're not in good shape here. I need to be able to harass them better, because again, I mentioned how I probably would lose this in a brute force type of fight after all. And our lances makes them a lot more effective at range too. But yeah, getting hit by... well, I was going to say getting hit by a second disruption bomb caused me problems, and why aren't you turning, damn it? Proximity's hitting me again, isn't it? Just because these Krakens... so yeah, this is over here, alas. It had problems at first, because my opponent has no actual frigates after all. So I could be able to theoretically just keep playing the waiting game. Maybe I got a little too aggressive. Because this is over. I let my battleships get swarmed down. Or at least get revealed too quickly. Since in all honesty, if I attack them from the rear or side, due to their, was it, slower speed and actually the amount of combustion gauge my opponent was, at least initially, burning, maybe I would have been able to just get a bunch of free damage in. It was going good with the Krakens alone. They forced a beacon. I should have been a little more diligent to have them chase after them if my opponent was going to evade entirely. Since again, I had chimionic skin. I could get a little more aggressive, I just don't want to get too close, in case my opponent wants to chase after the Krakens though. Alright, so we're going to get ourselves a bit of a rematch here, and I need to... we know what the fleet is. It just came down to my poor ships getting run down, essentially. Since sure, my hive ships have ramming spurs, but that means very little when your opponent has a ridiculous amount of hit points with the Grand Cruisers, and essentially having the same kind of armor as you. But I do like the prospect of the Krakens. It's just a matter of having them commit to the fight, which is always the problem. Or at least keep them in that sweet spot. And since I don't have the convenience of my drones kind of being able to just turn on and off their movement at will, kind of like a combustion gauge, I don't have that convenience. Although what I'm thinking of doing is maybe grouping up these Krakens a bit more. I am metagaming a tiny bit, I suppose, since I kind of believe my opponent is not going to be utilizing the frigates. And also, I did turn on my tracking senses as well, but I think that's also a given on what we're utilizing. I just need to somehow have these things do damage kind of freely. Let's see how this does. And once again, I'm going to have to deal with latency, so that's going to be a nerf factor in this exchange. Because I am curious, how long does that take? It says 85 milliseconds, so we'll see. It took almost like 2 seconds there, felt like, for that rush.
The enemy has seized a strategic area.
I don't get that responsiveness, which definitely hurts when I'm trying to burn retros and all that. Alright, so they're throwing a beacon at drones, that's fine. In all honesty, maybe I get aggressive on these ships. At least with the Krakens. Although it's likely my opponent's going to boost them together. Also, kind of want to destroy their engines to kind of limit their ability to run me down too. Which is a lot of the reason why I focus on the engines. Since we certainly seen firsthand, I don't really have the convenience to just commit to an engagement or a battle. And these drones are fine if they get detected. They're just there to grab a couple of points and see about... Well, I see about getting some free kills. And they are boosting, but they're burning a lot of the combustion gauge. Keep that in mind too. The only downside is I don't quite have the range to jump them immediately. Or at least shoot them as soon as I detect them. But this is the first mistake I would love to punish somehow. And I gotta keep in mind that they're likely gonna shoot at my ships as well. And now they're gonna regroup, so I gotta be quick about at least doing some damage that sticks. And also watch my rush ability, that's gonna be important as well. Because these could get out of the beacons, these can hide. I just gotta give it a moment. Alright, so sadly that drone died there. Can we do the damage to make this stick, though? At least make it worth my time, because now they're regrouped, sadly. And if they hit themselves, that'd be pretty good. Engine's temporarily down. I want to continue harassing these guys. If that's at all possible. Just a question, am I abusing the silent rushes or not? Yeah, this is a bit awkward because all my rushes, I use them individually, so... I want to do damage to these things while I have the opportunity. Can I at least get some... Since the engine was damaged, can I get something permanent here? And sadly, this is going to prompt me getting detected if I'm not careful. Alright, cruiser, you're going to have to go grab this. I think is what I'm going to do. And lances are going to do damage. And I think I'm going to have a Kraken stuck. Maybe? Who knows what the lengths he did there.
The enemy has seized a strategic area.
You're sadly going to just burn to death. And sadly, flagship was revealed as well in this regard. And if I commit, I'm in a lot of trouble, maybe, especially with their shields back up. I'm gonna try and get some more damage in. Well, it'll be wishful thinking. Yeah, Spore Field didn't do a whole lot there. Well, actually, it could slow him down some, but... My shields are good. If I take only shield hits, that's perfect. I just gotta make these Krakens do work for me. Ideally. And punish these things amazingly. Because this is actually a pretty good arc if they burnt a lot of their combustion gauge. We just need something to stick. And I do have Spore Field coming up in a moment. And shields already kind of died there, so... As long as I'm hitting, that's not a big deal. But this is the one... We're starting to see a bit of a downside to... the behavior of the cracked Tyranids. Since now I'm shooting at whatever is closest to me and not so much what's actually what I want to hit. Although I can hide this easily enough. Just absorb damage. Yeah, just keep boosting on through. I'm going to take a lot of fire in a moment, though. So let's hopefully get these ships hit then. And of course, that's enough boring damage to kill off the Kraken, I think. And I rammed my own ship too, sad thing in that regard. And dang it. Yeah, this Kraken's pretty much, or this cruiser is doing very little for me in this exchange because of the lack of convenience of where it can hide. So where's this beacon going? That is going to be a pain for a brief little bit. But am I able... Yeah, Krakens are just going to die due to lances. And hell, one of them just got stuck on, so... Let's see if I can at least get something worthwhile. I doubt it, though, because the disruption bomb's about to come back up. Now, that was definitely risky, but if they're going to boost away from me, that's fine. Sort of. Because now you're free to just shoot at them until they turn around, hopefully. And I do have a spore field coming up in a moment, but this is where I'm just going to get run down, let's be honest. That's basically what's going to happen here. Although, thankfully they are just trying to run down the ship. So the flagship could still continue to do something here. Although we're in a very bad position right now. Hell, I'm just likely going to lose this due to the objective timer running down. Let's be serious. And while this fleet can be durable, effective against this type of Pyro-Acid fleet as we're kind of seeing, these Grand Cruiser fleets definitely are fragile to anything with burst damage. Because hell, we see I'd gone up against countless types of Grand Cruiser fleets, and they didn't really do a whole lot, I feel like, especially once my torpedoes connect. But can we put up a bit of a fight on, at least? Because we're about to run away here. Sadly, my Kraken is dead. My damage is definitely getting spread out. And I would like to grab... I'm going to need to grab more objectives, let's be honest. But can I at least kill off the crew here? I'm going to have to run with you, flagship. Ah, dang it, burn retros again being a factor here, which is annoying. Yeah, and it's because they're grouped together as well. That's where the problem is there. But if they're going to come at me, I suppose, well, that's all I can really do, I guess. And I do have the means... Well, I do have rush available, but this ship's going to die pretty soon. Can the damage be done? I do have another foil lurker, but I see them kind of turning their broadside to me, which I'm not comfortable with. And burn retros again. Yeah, that's causing me a bit of issues, the amount of times when my ships are burning retros when they could be getting closer to the opponent. Although, so long as I'm only getting hit by their lances and weaponry, I'm probably okay, because I'm about to boost in a moment here. Or at least I'm about to rush to safety to a limited extent. And your health is going to oh, beacon there. Ah, never mind. I was going to say beacon was going to reveal you. Although beacon is on my flagship, which doesn't do me much good. And right now it's just the sheer amount of health these things have. Can I board that one ship? That would be nice right now. Although, it's my Kraken... Yeah, my Kraken is making it difficult for me to control this ship, isn't it? Think what's happening, and I will be able to board, or at least Foil Lurker out in a moment. How do I get the best out of my boarding, though, with that said? Because my flagship's not going to last... Okay, I know how to do that. Sort of. I do have a beacon still, but... if I can get a bad position, maybe that's not terrible. And by what I'm hoping is maybe a bad position for my opponent, because that crew's about to die. This crew's about to die. I have a rush available. I'm hoping my boarding does what it needs to, though. Because I'm going to lose by ejective. Just look how close it is already. This fleet's kind of meant to do slow and steady type of damage, with their lack of being able to do a ridiculous amount of critical hits, after all. And all my broadside weaponry are kind of gone, too.
25% of strategic points.
And we didn't get any boarding in. So that's all she wrote. But still, if this was an Imperial Navy fleet, if I had something with some raw burst damage, then this fleet would succumb really damn quickly. We see it time and time again. It's just the fact that I'm utilizing a fleet that kind of is meant to do slow and steady damage at this point. Although, it still wasn't a terrible engagement, it's just the trickiness of being able to commit. Well, the objectives kind of forced my hand a little bit due to the capture speed. That's ultimately what it is. It wasn't a terrible engagement. Just a raw hit point pool to have to go through. And not getting enough critical hits as well. More fire assaults means more morale damage, which I don't even think we got a mutiny of any kind. Which doesn't help me in that matter at all. Oh, this is gonna get interesting now. From a bunch of Grand Cruisers to a fleet that cannot even be set on fire. It just means we're gonna have to resort to our secondary method of winning, which is the boarding damage. Sadly, I kind of wish I had my Strangle, Tentacle, or Massive Claw fleet with that said, since I'm more versed in that, but we at least have a couple options. I'm just wondering, is there any value in the Chimionic skin? Since Predator Instincts doesn't matter anymore, but Lictor Brood I definitely want. What alternatives are there? I can only think of maybe Spasmic Regeneration, but I like these drones or Krakens to still be an annoyance since they can work pretty well, since we've seen a little bit of an example of that. Although, I don't really expect a lot out of these Krakens, truth be told. Spore Field's not going to matter a whole lot. And I'm pretty certain Wrecking Bomb and the Spiky Carapace do not ignore armor, so they're going to be hard to utilize too. Yeah, I don't really have a lot of skills because Jewel Cannon's out of the question. These don't ignore armor, so I feel like they're pointless. Speed recovery could be good for tanking, but how... The theme, though, that we've been seeing is my opponents like to rely on the Arc Propagator, which is going to be tricky for my Krakens especially. But we'll see what can get done. This is not going to be easy. I'm going to be relying heavily on boarding damage, especially early on, to try and soften them up. And what are we looking at? 3 ships. Maybe I should have brought the Psychic Scream, because if I prior... No. So these are a triple Scourge fleet, which probably doesn't work well in my advantage. I have the point defense that are... At least I have more point defense than usual, which can be good. Now I gotta find that gap. So I kind of want to go straight through here. This is not a matchup I definitely was expecting. I still want to try and do some boarding damage and try and hit them while their fighters are out.
The enemy has seized a strategic area.
Which honestly means I want Krakens around to kind of start grabbing objectives. Since if my opponent does the mistake of keeping these Scourges together, then I should in theory be able... Well, they're grabbing an objective there, so there is still like a frigate around to be mindful of. And sure, they're going to get spotted. That doesn't do a whole lot for them. Since the fighters are currently out, they can't really attack them. But how the hell do I deal with this? What's their troop capacity? 18 troops, so...
You have seized a strategic area.
So 2 lightning strikes from my hive ships alone might be able to kill off a third of the crew. But not much else. And maybe these Krakens can go after whatever frigate's there. Hard to say. At least we still have some latency. It doesn't seem to be as noticeably bad as it was before. So oh yeah, and I want one of these Krakens to try and grab this point, if that's at all possible. So they're getting recalled. Yep, sadly that was inconvenient. I should have been watching for that. But I have an easy way to deal with that and conceal myself. We're just going to have to do a bit of a 180, I suppose. And hell, in all honesty, I probably should have waited till they launched the fighters. Because this is a great defense for dealing with their Scourges. But then again, they have double the squads, or they have 2 squads they can utilize. One, they retain vision, so maybe it's not as effective as I make it sound. And hopefully, you conceal yourself. Alright, so Krakens are identified, that's not a big deal yet. Although, I do need to kill off these fighters with that said. That's my best strength right there. Kill the fighters off and then just use the spore field to kind of hide my ships. Before... Oh, let's see. Rush on in. Ideally, kill these ships off, but that's unlikely. Oh, I'm marked. Okay, that explains that. I thought that would have expired by now. Now it's expired. Now, we have fighters to deal with, so let's keep that in mind. And ideally avoid getting shot at all. And I do have the point here. That's not going to amount to much because we are dealing with Grand Cruisers after all. But they have very little firepower otherwise. So any free damage I could do is kind of nice, but I'm going to have a hard time boarding them. With that said. Alright. They burnt their jump, so maybe I could do something about this here slightly. I'm just watching for the full squad being launched.
You have seized a strategic area.
And ideally I don't want to get hit by everything. Which is probably what's going to happen here if I'm not careful. Although, critical hits are what's hurting me here now. If these Krakens continue to get fire assaults, they're going to just die a miserable death. So we're going to have to try and minimize that somehow.
The enemy has seized a strategic area.
We are doing some form of damage at least, because I am getting like full damage critical hits. Now, let's try and grab these points, I suppose. Since of the nature of what we're dealing with, I'm not likely going to win this through damage alone. But if I can get some boarding damage in, that helps. since my opponent doesn't seem to be taking me very seriously. In all honesty, let me just ram this thing to death. Well, that scared him off. It's a surprising amount of damage, I won't lie. And that spore field's actually being useful. And that was a 3-minute cooldown they just burnt, so I will happily take that. This is weird. I know that their entire strategy is all about their fighters doing damage, but they have a scanner pulse available, so...
The enemy has accumulated 25% of strategic
we have another
points.
spore field coming up in a moment. Alright. Now, let's I thought I told you to use your adrenal glands, you cursed thing. You're not doing that. Although, we're doing a bad... That might kill off the crew right there, so that's a good exchange for me. As I try and grab these objectives. We are surprisingly doing a lot of damage here. Now, you're going to have to evade, which is possible with this gas cloud, or hell, I'm going to have a spore field help you with that, actually. Watch for when... Okay, that's not possible anymore due to the fighters, sadly. I was hoping maybe for something defensively, because now these fighters are going to wreck me if I'm not careful.
You have accumulated 25% of strategic points.
Although, if I can at least get my point defense to maybe help shoot them down, maybe I can get something here. Unlikely, though. All this can do is just delay the inevitable, but they're doing a terrible job shooting down my shield still. Not much to really say there aside for doing more aggressive boarding, especially while their fighters are out, or while I'm currently revealed, rather. I want to wait. Actually, let's try and spread out this a little bit. Engine's permanently destroyed, which doesn't mean much here. Just gotta watch the health, and if possible, if I could kill one of these off, that gives me a lot more longevity here in this fight. And they're actually using Resurrection Orb, which sadly did not really do anything for him against the first two. For the other two ships is what I mean to say. And we are currently capturing all 5 points. Alright, there's a way to turn those ships around, I suppose. A little bit extra damage, hopefully, in the spore field. Which I doubt is something we could benefit off of. Alright, I know what to do to deal with these fighters. Well, I did say that, but then suddenly I had to lose my brain or void lurker ability. So, am I able to take advantage of it now? Because yes, this is going to hurt, but it did what it needed to. And I kind of want to board you, but I don't think that actually helps me with all the sheer amount of fighters, and your deck's gone too, so let's enjoy that. One ship is effectively out of the fight for now. Although, my ship is doing the invisibility glitch again. A little unpleasant, but less fighters is always a bonus for me. Although, we're still content to trying to kill this thing off, I suppose. Since it's the closest thing in range, that's the downside of this little mechanic that Tyranids have. And I don't really want to ram it because it is still 83 armor after all that's regenerating. And where did they jump? I saw a jump, just not much of a jump. Alright. I'm gonna board in a moment. And I don't think you're gonna get to conceal yourself. Unless the fighters live a little bit longer. Nope.
You have seized a strategic area.
So that's pretty screwed right now. So let's just continue to board this thing, I guess. And get ready to try and disable another one of their ships. Oh, he's getting reckless now, which doesn't bode well for me.
You have accumulated 50% of strategic points.
But it might be too little too late, if I'm fortunate enough. Yep, that ship's gone. Now I gotta do some... I need to do damage soon. Actually, I have all 5 objectives. But it's still a close game with that all said. And actually, I kind of want to crack this. Oh god. This just feels really weird. I'm not gonna lie. Because I didn't even realize my ship was identified because of this invisibility glitch. And it's invisible again as a result, so that's annoying. And now they're getting reckless, so this is where I'm likely going to lose.
Points.
And can't really board them because of the additional... what is it? Because of the fighters that are hovering over them right now, although they were just recalled, silly me. I do have shields, so that helps, but my fighters have failed to intercept theirs, I think. Can we try and kill these things off? This is just a silly match right now. One that, because my opponents are terrible neglect on the objectives, might work well for me, but I need to get them away from this gas cloud if I'm going to use it. Because right now, I can't, because of their close proximity, I can't do anything about this. Actually, you're going to have to hide. Get out of the nano cloud at least. Actually, I can jump in a moment, actually, so I might be okay. It's just a lot of damage.
Close to victory by strategic points.
There. Is it finally working as it should? I doubt it. Well, we won by the objective, but I think that's just carelessness of my opponent, because you saw how if they just rushed me down recklessly, they probably would have just won that, and I would not have had the damage potential. So I think I won basically due to my opponent not knowing what to do, seriously. Because what I was liking to try to do was harass them with early boarding damage. Maybe try and cripple one of them to kill off the crew when I am forced to commit, but that was definitely easier said than done. And due to their 83 armor, and me not being able to do fire assaults, my Pyro-Acid was almost useless. So I had sort of to rely on the objective, which is basically what won it for me.